through everything, and I wanted to so bad call you.
Why didn't you call me?
I avoided. And I'm scared. And I'm scared that you're gonna be mad at me.
Traumatized children and how they present in adulthood. Brynn emotionally is a little girl. And I don't mean that disparagingly. She is a little girl. This is the result of someone that had a very traumatizing upbringing. And people like this and Brynn, they operate at their best when they're talking about their emotions and they're being tended to, just like you would do for a child. And in this reunion, it was really hard to watch people dunk on a little girl. But the problem is she's not a little girl anymore. And that's the saddest part about this. Someone really, really hurt her during childhood in a way that no child should ever be hurt. Like, that trauma comes from someone, when they were hurt, they felt unsafe, like survival unsafe. And it's heartbreaking because it does something to you as a person. It changes you. And you see her now dealing with the fallout of the protective mechanisms that she's developed as an adult. And it's such a delicate dance. It's such a complicated thing to break down and explain, because they ebb and flow between being devastatingly anxious. You know, when they feel it's okay to be vulnerable, they'll go up to you and they'll hug you, and then they'll be able to disarm enough for them to maybe understand a little bit of what's going on. But then they feel it's unsafe and they'll be avoidant and they won't talk to you. They'll give you the silent treatment. Truly, they don't know which one is going to make them feel ultimately safe at the end. They don't know what's going to bring them that resolution that they want, just like a little kid. And it can be devastating to watch a little kid make a mistake and how much they hurt by having to deal with the consequence. But what we're seeing Brynn deal with is the consequences of her actions as an adult. And she is being put on trial as an adult. But the truth is, an adult in her life did something very wrong to her. Very wrong to her. It is not okay for adults to do that to children. But now it's Brynn's responsibility to get help as an adult, to understand what she does, her destructive patterns, her sabotaging ways. And I think this season, Uba realized, I'm not dealing with, my opposition. I'm dealing with a little girl. And you saw her go to her like a little girl.
It's gonna take me a while, maybe a long time, but just no. No one thing. I love you, and I'm not wishing you anything bad.
These are child for you. I know you don't have any intentions, right? You know.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're hugging her and you're saying it's okay, things are gonna be all right, Brynn can finally disarm. She has rejection sensitivity, Brynn. And it's not an uncommon thing when you have trauma like this. It's like you reach a certain level of rejection and then you're offline. You can't get through, you can't penetrate. So when she has that hug, that closeness, when Brynn lets you get close to her and hug her, you disarm those senses and you can finally talk to her like a parent can talk to a little girl. And you watch Uba parent her. And very well, you need to apologize to the rest of the girls. But you also have to understand it from Sai's point of view.
I never want to be that girl's friend. It was so kind of Uba to hug her. Uba got up and actually hugged her. She was very kind, considering the allegations would have ruined her.
Sai dealt with a parent like this as a child. This is very triggering to Sai. So when Sai says, I never want to be friends with that girl, Sai had a mom that was like this. Maybe she didn't present exactly like this, but Sai had a mom that put her through deep pain that didn't make sense to her as a kid. Because all of this is very complicated, right? Like, kids should not be having to deal with complicated emotions and complicated adults. It should be simple. Because growing up is hard enough. Sai had a very, very difficult parent situation. She should not be around someone like Brynn because it's very triggering. She's in a healing period era where she should not be triggered. These are the years following her mom's death. She should not be near someone like Brynn, who is so traumatized that, unfortunately, her less than desirable coping mechanisms are unfortunately abusive. Hurt people because you start to defend yourself. Because at one point during childhood, you had to defend yourself. This is the only way for you to stay safe. And you arm yourself with a gun, right? And then you get older and you bring that gun into conversations and people are like, whoa, why are you holding a gun? And you're like, I'm not holding a gun. I'm the victim here. I've always been the victim here. And the other person is like, yeah, but why are you holding that gun? You're holding a gun at this conversation. I'm not holding a gun. And then they're like, wait, what? I need this gun to stay safe. And the other person is like, put down your gun. And they don't realize they're holding the gun anymore and they've become actually the abuser in the situation. They're no longer the victim. And that shift is really hard because inside they're still a victim. They haven't really healed from the fact that they were a victim during childhood. And you see Brynn go through the stages, there's the denial, there's the bargaining, there's her holding up, but this is why I did it, in the same way a little kid does it. And in the same way a little girl does, you watch her really regret what she did. It's too much. They're all gonna hate me now. And that just validates her feeling of being rejected or maybe not worthy of love. And It's sad. She's a little kid. She's a little girl. And it's really triggering for her to hear Sai say she's broken.
I know. But I'm getting your orders to the girls. They love you.
I feel bad for her. I really do. I'm starting to feel bad for her. I feel terrible for her.
No, you do.
She's human. She's human. She is not. That girl is not. She's broken. She needs love and attention, and all she's getting is that.
She doesn't have to stay broken. You know, I've made the mistake of saying, you know, these people are damaged, or like they damage other people, and that's really hard to hear. And the feedback that I've heard from people that have been in that situation is it makes me feel really bad when you say I'm damaged, or you say that I'm damaging others. It doesn't need to stay there. You can improve if you go and you get help. A lot of this stuff is so, you can't even reach it. You can't even reach it. It's so deep. And what people in this situation they like to do is avoid. They like to run away from it because it's so scary. Because they're little kids, they're scared.
They really love you. What you said is really hurting them. You get through this. All this time. With this haircut, you would. I can't undo it. You can. No. You can.
They're scared, and their relationships, you know, you'll see them like, they'll really want connection with people, and they're like, I was too scared to even go and apologize. I was too scared to even go and call. And then when they do go up to something and they try to apologize, they're like, wait, but like I actually did have a reason for doing that, and because they don't feel heard, they feel terribly misunderstood. And they are misunderstood. However, they have an inappropriate perspective on like what is justified. Like what they do is justified, and what you did was bad first. And you know, so the bargaining part of this, it's not really sensical. So in your discussions, when you're trying to hash things out with them, you feel like, I don't think they're really understanding that what they did was bad. But that's really because they never had a fair trial and jury. They never saw a clean fight. They didn't have adults that played by the rules. They had adults that played dirty. So they had to do what they could. Like, you know, they learned the best they could. But at this point, they need to learn to play with a code of ethics that, like, isn't from such a defensive place. But it's hard to see the good in people when the people that raised you, they weren't good to you. So you are inherently mistrustful. And they go and they pick up really bad habits. And it's like, when I say it's nasty, like some of the coping mechanisms, the fighting tactics, the strategies, the manipulation, it's really some nasty work. And that's why it's just such a delicate balance, right? Because when you're on the receiving end of their behavior as an adult, because you're not looking at them like a child, but at a certain point, you're a human being too, and you want to be treated, you know, with decency and respect. It is really intense. They ruin a lot of their relationships, and they know how to cut and run. They can take a loss because they've taken them before in their life. They will lose a friend, they will lose a partner, and they'll be like, that's just what life is. That's just how life is for me. I lose people and they misunderstand me, and they're just gonna know me as the villain for the rest of their life. And that's fine, because I know my heart and I know I'm a good person, and they'll kind of wipe their hands from it because it's the only way they can without like being very crippled by shame and guilt. Is there a way back for these relationships? And they constantly have to ask themselves these questions. Did I take it too far this time? And they don't really know, because the boundaries in their childhood were really weird. Like, oh, you know, like my mom has done worse to me, or my dad has done worse to me when I was a childhood, because they had bad childhoods. But the reality is, when you go into the real world, you're dealing with people with different thresholds that expect you to not harm them at all. Not no harm compared to your scale that you're used to being harmed by. No. They just expect you to not harm them. If not, they don't want something to do with you. And that's a hard lesson to learn. Sometimes the consequence is you make one mistake and you're not friends anymore. And that's something that they really struggle with learning the hard way. And it's devastating. And tons of kids that were abused or traumatized don't go on to be abusive. But there is a certain demographic that do. And unfortunately, Brynn in her dealings has become toxic and abusive. And it's like, yes, they need EMDR therapy to heal, but they also need a rehabilitation program to stop being abusive. And it takes a really long time for people that are abusive to re-perceptualize things and understand that in a lot of these new cases in their life, they're not actually the victim. And that is a hard perspective switch. And it's sad, because she wants to have a connection with these women. She does not want to harm anyone, but she doesn't know the way back home. And it's not another adult's job to show you how to be a friend, or how to love other people, or how to, you know, be loved. And Uba said that to her.
No, that's not assertive.
It wasn't. No, I wasn't.
you
listen, Amore. Maybe you don't know how to be loved or how to stand up for yourself.
Watch
No. We're two different.
Watch your mouth.
No,
I'm
we're
not
two
afraid of
different.
you.
Well,
Everybody
I'm not
afraid of you.
afraid.
I'm not afraid of
Can I
you.
get
You
afraid
put
of
people in the hospital?
No,
I
no.
put people in the funeral home.
You know,
And it was true when she said it, although it was like, it's hard to hear someone else say that to her, but it was never a lie. And the thing is, someone like this will hear what I have to say and say, you know, does it have to be that, what you're saying? Does it have to, can I just be going through a hard time? Can I just be having a hard 5 years? And the truth is, it can be both. It can be both. But those little niggly ways that you're deciding to defend yourself, those little ways that the tactics, the manipulation, that's not from something that happened 3 years ago. That's not, you are regressing, but that's not from something that happened 3 years ago. That's from something that happened 30 years ago. And that's the truth of the matter, right? There's like a negotiation. This is a very harsh way to condemn me. And do I have to be this person that's, you know, broken from their childhood? You don't like that categorization. At the end of the day, you can't run from it anymore. Like this has come up in your life so many ways, in so many ways. This is just the first time it was caught on TV. And that's what she needs to come to terms with. She could have something bad happen to her 3 years ago, and that's made everything worse. But you had something bad happen to you 30 years ago, and you've been dealing with it for 30 years in a way that's been hurting the people around you. So like that needs to be addressed. And I know this isn't going to be popular because the pitchforks are out and everyone wants to dogpile on her, but she doesn't need that.